What's going on, you guys? Kintzugi here, and I've got one question for you. Why don't gamers finish playing their games? Before we ask ourselves why the majority of people don't finish their games, we must cover how few of us actually do. Beginning with myself, anecdotally, I know I don't finish many games I begin. It's actually one of the reasons why I started this channel, and in my short existence already, I have spent more quality time in games that have led me right to the end of them. For a more specific number, if I head over to my Steam and check my average completion rate on my profile, which calculates the average percentage of achievements earned per game, I have a score of 17% out of 80 games. Now, of course, this number doesn't tell the whole story. However, it does indeed make sense when I think back on my gaming history. What's your stream game completion rate? Leave yours in the comments down below. I also put out a poll on the channel asking you all whether or not you finished the games you start. The results actually shocked me. After scouring the internet, it's pretty clear most gamers do not finish games. However, it seems as though the Kintzugi community is made up of absolute champions, because most of you guys voted that you do in fact finish the games you begin, and I love to see it. I also wanted to give a shout out to those who voted no, because that's very transparent of you, because I do understand it can be difficult to admit to. And for those of you who do actually complete the games that you begin, were you aware at all that most gamers don't actually complete the games that they begin? Did you know that you are a part of a small group of people that actually complete the games? Leave your thoughts in those comments down below and let's talk about it further. Now let's get into why most gamers don't complete the games that they play. When it comes to why most gamers don't finish the games they begin, we must look at a few things, starting with the gamers themselves. For me, I see two things happening here. Older gamers lack the time to complete games, and younger gamers lack the attention span to do so. Of course, this is very much an umbrella statement. However, I think it's pretty convincing when we see how little time adult gamers have when it comes to things like there being more entertainment mediums being more accessible than ever, family time, or even long work hours. And for the kiddos, well, it's pretty simple really. The rise of psychologically predatory games that dose out dopamine hits, as well as the infrastructure of similarly developed social media, I believe has stripped most young gamers' ability to appreciate and withstand a game from start to finish. My next reason is because of the sheer number of games that are accessible to most people these days. When games are being released frequently and older games are available to play for affordable prices, this pulls gamers away from their current game because people typically chase something new the second they arrive at the anticlimactic moment of a game. It's the idea that people will take the path of least resistance. Unfortunately, we lose sight of how anticlimactic moments make the climactic ones even more fulfilling. Without a rise and fall of excitement, we would simply ride the highs until the highs no longer feel special. By game hopping and chasing the dopamine hit from playing a new game and then moving on the second things settle in, we will never understand how impactful a game can be. And through all of this, burnout will set in and we will be inundated with forum boards of people saying, "Why don't games feel as special as they used to be, man?" Moving on to my next reason for why we don't finish games anymore, we look to the way the games are being developed. As previously mentioned, the psychology in gaming is being looked at more than ever, and with this focus, many games are being designed around the practices of keeping people hooked. One way this happens is through the implementation of repetitive gameplay that strategically doses out dopamine hits without ever hitting a full climax of progression or conclusion. This conditioning attributes to what I said previously about how players these days seem to game hop. It's kind of like exclusively watching the pivotal moments of movies. It will feel enjoyable, but you will lose out on what it all means by not experiencing the buildups and fallouts. Sure, you'll watch more movies, but you also won't fall in love with many of them, I would imagine. My last reason for why gamers tend to skip out on completing games comes down to the longevity of games and open worlds. We are all obsessed with how long games are, constantly praising games for marketing 40-hour plus main story experiences. Yet here I am making a video about how most people don't finish these games. Long games can be fulfilling, sure, but I don't believe long games are for everyone. We must stop correlating long games with being good and instead target the the gameplay and writing as most valuable. I would rather have an incredible 10-hour experience rather than a mediocre 60-hour one, and I've gotta believe that most of you guys would feel the same. And this brings me to open world games. Once again, also praised and almost expected these days, I would argue that open worlds are some of the biggest culprits for creating this epidemic of gamers who don't finish their games. Although being a culprit, I also believe this is the first point all video that I think is forgivable. Let me explain. Open worlds are meant to allow players to get lost and explore, which I heavily advocate for. Sometimes it's not about checking off the box of completion, but instead having a memorable experience. For example, I just mentioned on stream recently how I have never finished Skyrim. If you haven't finished Skyrim, please don't leave me hanging here. Give me your best guess as to why you may have not completed the game as well. And the reason I haven't completed Skyrim, despite it being a 13-year-old game, is because it's a game where you can start up and wander the world however you'd like, and in doing so, get what I believe to be a complete experience without ever having to complete the story. Games like this are rare, and I think it speaks as to why Skyrim is one of the most popular games of all time. And through all of the reasons why gamers may not finish the games they play, we must answer one final question. Talking a lot about how few people finish games can sometimes distract us from the most important question of them all. Does it matter? Does not completing a game mean it's a waste of time or not fulfilling? Do you need to finish games to be justified in purchasing them? Well, my answer to these questions is simple. No. At the end of the day, what's most important in a gamer's life is whether or not they are fulfilled and happy with the games they are playing, regardless of how they play them. Although personally, I can say that not completing games has left me feeling embarrassed at times and simply lost because gaming is something I love. So I would always ask myself, how come I don't always see it through then? In the gaming community, it's easy to get caught up in what you've done rather than where you've been. And for me, I've played in a lot of fantastic worlds. Have I completed them all? No, but they have provided me the escape I look for in this hobby, and although I can't say I always know how it ends, I know my time spent was worth my while. But don't let myself finding peace in that fool you whatsoever. I'm still really excited to take on the challenge of seeing more stories through. Okay, you guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching as always. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to join our Discord as well if you want to take conversations like these even further. And come join myself and the community live over on Twitch and here on YouTube. We go live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So come hang out soon, will ya? And so long, you fine people on the internet. I'll see you soon. Peace.